I'm Jeff Franke, Editorial Director of Industrial Equipment News, and we're in Vernon, California today with Hannibal Industries. By trusting in their employees, they're overcoming many of the same challenges many manufacturers make, but they're still turning out some of the highest quality metal products made in America.
While the production of carbon steel tubing at their downtown Los Angeles location goes back a bit further, the entity that's known as Hannibal Industries was formed in 1985 when longtime employee Chuck Nezzer of Kaiser Steel received some financial backing from Japan-based Mitsui. Shortly thereafter, Hannibal will encounter the first of many changes in an ever-evolving marketplace.
Our tubular competitors out here in the West Coast all elected to put their capital into going to larger sections. So when I started here in '87, 4 square quarter wall was the largest section produced west of the Rockies, and all of the other larger tubular sections came in from the Midwest. So our competitors were going bigger. At that point in time, I think, well, in hindsight wisely, management decided that they wanted to diversify. So we bought a little roll forming company with the idea that we were going to use our tubular salespeople to kind of promote custom roll forming shapes. We had some customers that used some of that, so we kind of grew that, and we fell into the tooling for pallet racking.
An earlier acquisition of land adjoining their location in Los Angeles provided room to grow, which the company's burgeoning racking business would soon need.
So we had this property, right? And over that time, Mitsui had gotten more and more control of the company. As the original principals retired, their stock reverted back to Mitsui. So about that time, we became a wholly owned subsidiary of Mitsui. And we went to them and we said, hey, we think we're in the racking business now as well as the tubular manufacturing business. We've got this property, build us a factory. Over that period of time, we saw a lot of our large OEM tubing customers either consolidating back to their, the Midwest or going offshore. So it was very fortunate for us that as that business sort of started to tail off a little bit, the racking side of our business really picked up. And at one point in time when we started, we were 90% tubing and 10% rack. And right now our revenue is probably about 65 to 70% rack versus tubing.
As the company continued to grow, it would make a move that would reshape Hannibal and set the tone for the next decade.
2006, we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Mitsui, and my boss, Blanton Bartlett, the president of our company, got a call from Mitsui in New York and said, hey, we want to see you. And so he's like, oh, I'm getting fired for sure. He tells the story great. He's like, I'm walking into this office I've never been in, and it's like a mile of carpeting this thing to get to the desk where I'm going to talk to the guy. And they said, Blanton, thank you very much for your service. You've been a great asset to Mitsui, but we're gonna sell Hannibal. And so he's relieved, right, that he's still got a job, and he just pops up and says, hey, I'll buy it. And they're like, well, if you'd like to be a participant, that's great, but we have to go through the process and put you guys on the market, and so we did that. And Blanton, talking with a lot of his banking contacts, he decided that the best avenue to do that purchase would be an employee-owned stock option program, so an ESOP. And it came down to us and one other bidder, and the ESOP was successful in purchasing the company from Mitsui.
Initially, this new iteration of Hannibal was extremely prosperous, but market conditions would change again, forcing the company to do the same.
Between May and October of 2008, I think the bank that funded us thought that they had made the best decision that could ever possibly have been made. And then in October of 2008, as we all remember, the entire bottom dropped out of the economy. So here we are a young, new, employee-owned company with 50% of the business that we had just the month before. We like to kind of look at it in that if we had still been owned by Mitsui, we probably wouldn't have made it, because the action that had to be taken very, very quickly. But we got through that, and we've been profitable every year since 2009. And we've grown the value of our ESOP. It's 100% ESOP, so every single person that's an employee of Hannibal Industries has ownership. It works a lot like a retirement program or a 401k, except it's sweat equity, right? Nobody has to put money in, but as we grow the value of our company, and every year we disperse more stock to our employees, and so as they get more stock and the value of the stock goes up, then in their account, in their retirement account, they can build equity in Hannibal.
The impact of the ESOP went beyond just surviving a recession. It would establish a new identity, a new culture, and an ongoing competitive advantage for Hannibal.
I'm proud to say that we've grown the company about 1,700% in value, average about 36% year over year since 2009. And it's been a great story, a great ride. The cultural change is just immense. I think we're fortunate as an ESOP that these people are invested in our company, right? We're all invested in our company, and everybody understands that the better throughput we get, the more profit we make, therefore the higher our stock value goes, therefore all of us win.
Other factors would also play a role in the company's growth. While their manufacturing in California does translate to higher operating costs, it also provides some key competitive advantages.
Part of how we are able to grow the racking side of our business to what we've done is the state of California is the single largest consumer of racking product in the country. And within the state of California, 60 to 65% of that business is done within a 400-mile concentric circle of this plant. So, and as freight costs go up, and that product doesn't ship great, right? It doesn't cube out great. So we have a competitive advantage on the freight side. We have a competitive advantage in speed to market here.
Over time, the company has continued to see changes to both sides of its business. But as the racking portion grows, Hannibal continues to pivot in embracing new and evolving customer needs and cultural changes like e-commerce and the use of third-party logistics. Growth in these market applications led to another opportunity for Hannibal's racking business.
And one of the things that we've always gotten dinged for is that we were completely a regional player, right? So 3 years ago, we decided that based on the growth of the company and how well we're doing, that we wanted to have a national presence. So we started a facility in Houston, Texas. It's been tough. It's been a big learning curve. You do something for so long and you think, we got this down, but there are certain things that, different geographies, different population, different work ethics.
The ability to leverage the Houston location for cost savings would soon loom even larger than originally envisioned. When the Trump administration began levying heavy tariffs on imported steel, Hannibal would again leverage their market knowledge and position in making the right adjustments.
But when they did it, there was a lot of unknowns. So for instance, our overseas steel supplier, as well as I think just about every other overseas steel supplier, simply said, we're not shipping it until we can figure out what this is all about. And nothing hurts a manufacturer like supply interruption, right? Because we've already got promises out. We've already got purchase orders out. We're looking 12, 16 weeks out on the rack side of our business. And it was terrifying because we were looking at the potential of a complete supply interruption. And our director of purchasing, I remember coming in one day and he had all these business cards out on his desk. I'm like, dude, you haven't talked to that guy in like 5 years and I think that guy's dead.
Much like their recovery from the 2008-2009 recession, dealing with the tariffs and working through the related supply chain struggles helped reaffirm the underlying approach Hannibal has always taken and the values that drive their decisions.
We're simple people. Buy it right, make it right, and be competitive on the sales side, and you're going to be successful. People here really care about the customer. They really care about the name Hannibal because we're part of it, right? I mean, this is our deal, and it's not like we're representing some, private equity company or, some other ownership. Our name's on it, We got great people. That's all. Like I said, it's all about values. It's all about honesty. It's all about living up to your word. It's all about, if you make a mistake, you eat it, and you make it right. And I think that's where we've made a mark as Hannibal.
And just like any successful business, Hannibal isn't looking to rest on its previous accomplishments. Its leadership and employees know they'll have to continue to grow and change according to market demands that they're excited to attack.
I'm bullish on U.S. manufacturing. Speed to market's critical, right? And that's what, when you're here, when you're living in the marketplace, when you're interacting on a real-time basis with your customer and solving their problems and solving their challenges, that's the value add. Can somebody bring our products in cheaper from another country? Possibly. Can they do it fairly? I'm not so sure about that, but that's a completely different story. But are they there? Are they walking through the process? Are they on the ground? Are they in the warehouse? Those companies that kind of, can bridge both, right? To bring the low cost, the automation, the speed to market, the competitive cost, and that hands-on, working with solving your customers' challenges. If you can marry those two things, you're going to be a successful manufacturing company in the U.S.
Maintaining their status as an employee-owned company could be seen as a risk, but that would only be the case if employees were reticent to fully buy into the culture and understand the significance of their role.
We're makers. We're not distributors. We like the smell of burning steel and the sounds, and it's really in our blood.
It's this attitude and determination that ensures some of the best steel tubing and pallet rack products in the world are made in America.